Yo, what's up, everyone? Today I'll be doing a guide on how to do random boss rush. I just finished it just recently, so I'm gonna tell you guys my experience on how I was able to finish um random boss rush. So let's get on with it. Alrighty, so the first thing we want to do is to look at look at our requirements for this mode. So the one thing you definitely need in this mode, I've said in my attempt my solo boss rush video, is that you need a healing unit. 100% you need healing units. 100%. That is absolutely needed. If you don't have a healing unit, the bosses will just be able to just like deal damage to your base, and like it will just like they would just be able to defeat you through that way. Like no matter how much damage you do, like you won't do enough to like kill it quick enough. So yeah, you definitely need a healing unit. Early game defense is recommended, but you absolutely don't really need it because like early game defense units are basically your it could be your mid game defense units. Honestly, mid game defense units, early game defense units. Early game defense units are usually just sellable after wave 10 or so. Or mid game is usually you could just keep it around, just for to deal with the minions, but it won't do a whole lot against bosses. Bleed units are highly recommended. They're your main source of damage. If you manage to pull a bleed unit, definitely keep. Unless it's a really bad bleed unit or a mid bleed unit, then don't keep. But mm, if it's like above average bleed unit, you must keep that because that would be your bleed. You probably won't be able to pull another bleed unit throughout that entire match. Money units are recommended, but they don't. They're usually a money sink. Also, don't do not upgrade your money units too far because if you upgrade it too far, you won't be able to do enough damage, and then the minions will like be able to defeat you like really quickly. However, if you have Sword Mate 2, that rule gets thrown out the window because you could like straight up upgrade upgrade Sword Mate 2 to max. It will carry you through like the entire round. It will carry you to the entire round. Like literally through the entire round until you are able to pull like better units like bleed units. Mid game unit defense is really recommended because they last a really long time. Up to upwards to wave 10. Mid game units are what I consider mid game units are like usually if you're able to upgrade to pretty easily, it's a mid game unit. Support units recommended, but definitely not necessary. Um, it's you know. Also, oh wait, I almost forgot. Mid game units has to have big ass damage. So it's basically early game defense units, but cheap upgrades, and also long range. If it has no range, it's not good enough. Anyways, support units. Support units are okay, but usually like the support units usually take a lot of upgrades to like get good. Like the only support units are like available that are immediately good are the freeze units. And I think there's pretty much some stuns like Flower Magnus, a little bit of stuns, not that great, but having stuns also, it's nice and all. Slows are required. The units go really fast, get really fast, really quick, as well as it allows your main DPS to deal enough damage deal enough, more damage, not enough damage, more damage. Freezes can work, but it's only temporary. Honestly, it's only temporary. Like you do not need freeze. You could just literally go if you get BB6, all your freeze units, you could just sell them. But you could just always have like freeze units to supplement because it does help in it. So early game, you want to have strong high initial placement damage, as well as usually you want your units to be low upgrade cost, but these units too much cost or low like too much cost and like low payback. which is not what you want in a unit. Especially into these rules are farms, burns, and bleeds. So if they are like higher upgrades, you definitely want to keep upgrading them. Besides burn, you only just want to upgrade 1 or 2 times, and they could be your main game defense, mid game defense. But their burns are not that great in this mode. The early game units become pretty much useless after wave 10. Honestly, you could sell them earlier as well. You know, you could sell them earlier than wave 10. Like early games units, they're just there to save your ass if you didn't manage to pull anything. If you didn't manage to pull anything, you just sell it. I mean, you keep it until you manage to pull something. So the mid game is where the game gets really hard. A lot of my actually like a lot of my runs end in the mid game or early game. It rarely ends in the late game, which I consider late game around like wave 10, and after like wave 5 is you're past the early game. Mid game is where you need units that have relatively low upgrade costs because you need to deal with the powerful twos and the powerfuls, and could deal damage relatively quickly and consistently, which means they have to have high range. You could also keep those units, but they won't do a whole lot to bosses anymore after wave 10 or so. They become relatively useless if they don't do a whole lot to bosses, but they could definitely still deal with the minions. Late game, late game, late game units have to deal high amounts of damage and consistently. As well as your optimal late game setup is that you want one money farm, one healing unit, one bleeding unit, one late game defender, and BB6. But that's only the minimum requirement. You could definitely have more mid game defenders that you have left over, or like multiple late game units if you didn't manage to pull a bleed unit. So you don't necessarily need a muddy farm, a bleed unit, or even late game defenders. So notable units that you want to have it in your team is Gun Girl and Gun Girl 2. They're so good. Like they're super cheap to upgrade, and they could do a lot of damage. So much damage in a long ass range. I think once they're two upgraded, upgrade two, it gets to 70 range, which is a long. Swordmate 2 is basically the best farm unit you could get in this game. Um, you want to max out Swordmate 2 because once Swordmate 2 is maxed out, it has 100 range, and 100 range could like hit the entire map in the mode, and so like it could literally carry you through wave 14. However, you need more support if you want to like just continue using Saber as a carry. You definitely need more support. Sauno, Sonic, or Tengen, literally the best unit you could pull in this mode. If you manage to pull Tengen, it could solo carry. It literally could solo carry. It could do a lot of damage because of its bleed, and like yeah, it could literally solo carry, 100%. If you pull this upgrade, but try to max this out, but you also need like other supports too. You really like it, but like it gets it requires less support once you pull this unit. And BB6 is literally only purpose is to slow. But if you don't have slow, you know, just cry. So the final tips I have for you guys is mid game units should be only upgraded to their second upgrade cost. Early game units should not be even upgraded unless if you have to be upgraded, upgrade it once. BB6 only needs 2 slow upgrades to slow, but the second upgrade is 3K, so I think you should put it off until like later in the game. But you definitely need BB6. Money farms besides Swordmate 2 should not be farmed maxed, or even try to pursue max, because it's a huge money sink for something that doesn't do damage. So you'll probably end up like losing the round before you finish upgrading your money farms. But however, like the reason I already said like previously, like Swordmate 2 should be the only unit that you should upgrade to max because of a high potential, high profits. high uptake. And finally, the one thing I should always tell you is to turn off auto skip. There is no reason to have auto skip. Because the mode gives seconds. It gives it gives $25 per every few seconds, as well. The units will just like go back way too fast, and like your main DPS cannot keep up sometimes. Your main DPS cannot keep up sometimes, and that's if you watch my video that where I did my random boss rush like straight up, I had it, but I didn't turn off auto skip, and it cost me. And it literally it took me literally another hour or so to like finish the round. So I finished my and get my BB6 orb. So yeah, it's definitely required to turn off your auto skip. If you don't turn it off, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose. So yeah, this is basically my guide to completing random boss rush. Thanks for watching, everyone. And I'll be back next time with more guides. Peace out.